Richard Purbs, have you ever considered hiring a bass player?
No.
Okay, moving on. Juniper Grave. This is from the band, I'm presuming. You absolute cuties. My question is, who said you could be so cute?
You did.
My mum said.
Really? Oh, weird. Generally, I mean, I think Raj is probably the cutest. He's the smouldering one, and I'm just a beard. Okay, so you're asking that one.
Okay. Curtis Dewar?
Yeah, it's Dewar. It's Curtis
Dewar.
who did PR for the last album.
Oh, cool.
Sweet bloke.
Hello.
Okay.
Why is the new album so awesome? Like, seriously. Because I'm in it.
Do we have to say it seriously then? Is that what that means?
Because I'm in it.
Because Raj is in it. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, thinking that it's awesome. I don't know. I guess the reason that you think it's awesome is because you connected with it, Curtis, and we're glad that you did. Because we put a lot of work into it, and it means, although we did it ultimately for ourselves, when other people connect with your music, it's just like the absolute icing on the cake. You know what I mean? It just makes it the whole experience brilliant and cyclic.
Cool. Who's next?
Right,
Here we go.
Right, so we've now come to the end section where basically Rob Lang, bless him, has asked.
Dr. Rob Lang.
Doctor. Yeah. So
his brain.
So there's a whole load of Rob questions.
Yeah. Alright, Rob Lang. What are your rehearsals like? Are they structured?
Wait.
Right.
Let's do one at a time.
One at a time. What are your rehearsals like? Are they structured?
Okay. Well,
I think it depends on why we're rehearsing.
Right.
Like, if it's like for tour, then it'll very much be going through the set as many times as we can.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when it's writing, it's probably we'll warm up and do a few of the songs, and then we'll get to writing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There are two completely different types of rehearsals. Like recently, because we've been focused on the album and touring, and not writing yet. We've actually not been rehearsing a huge amount, and actually we had our first rehearsal the other day in for
a month or so.
Yeah, over a month. And it was actually us not having rehearsed, and I don't know if other bands sometimes find this, meant that it was absolutely killer rehearsal.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it was really good, it felt really comfortable, and we've got another one on Sunday, haven't we? And so that means, like, kind of since the last tour, which was ended in June, before we start this new tour in August, we'll have only rehearsed twice. But actually I feel pretty confident about that. That's whereas I suspect when we come to the end of this tour, before we start the next one in October, that'll be writing time, I suspect. So then we will probably get a much more regular rehearsal going on. And I think in terms of how they're structured, it's
where do we rehearse and how regularly?
Okay,
so you've answered that.
Yeah. I mean, how regularly we try to rehearse once a week, definitely. When especially when we are starting to write again. And we did used to do this thing also where me and you would have like an interim.
Now and again.
We'd call it a songwriting rehearsal, but we might be starting to move away from that now. We might be trying to write more as a complete unit as a band. We'll see how that works.
It's funny you should say that. How does someone go about introducing new ideas?
So how does somebody go about introducing? Well, I mean, a lot of the initial, I guess, sort of melodic and chord ideas and riff ideas, a lot of them start on an acoustic guitar for me. But, you know, just because that's the way we've done things in the past, that doesn't necessarily means that's the way we're going to carry on to do things in the future, because we always... You know, we're really proud of the last record we've just done, and now we want to make a new one that's not the same. So there's no easier way of making something different by
changing everything.
Yeah. Trying a different approach.
Is it hard returning to daily life after a tour?
Yes.
What techniques do you use to plug back into society?
Oh my god.
Well, normally I don't really get a chance to like plug back in. I'm just like, right, work, like straight after. So
I would say it's more. It's rather than plug in. That sounds a little bit like almost like an easy thing to do. It's more like if you imagine that while you've been on tour, you've been turned into a square peg.
Yeah.
And then there's that round hole, and then somebody's got a massive hammer and they're just smacking you back in, and you're like the splinters flying off, and you're like, oh no, I don't fit. Why?
My technique is sleep. Try and sleep whenever I can. Basically.
Sorry. What?
I know.
What's that?
He doesn't.
I try and sleep. And after the upcoming tour, what is the next big challenge you're aiming for?
Well, it'll be writing.
Writing,
So writing the next record, because I mean I don't know how much people understand this, but the process of bringing out a new record, like in the past, it's a 2-year process from the moment you start writing, properly writing, to the moment that record is actually out in people's hands. It can take 2 years, and then you have this strange overlap thing as well, where so we are now touring The Ties That Bind, and that touring will continue for some time. I suspect probably to maybe April next year. Well, we're still touring under the guise of this album, and then during that process we have to start writing the new record, and then somewhere during that writing process we'll be going into the studio to record the new record, and then there'll be a transition with all the new material coming in. So there's a lot, it's quite a complicated process of keeping it continually going. And if you look, like we released the EP in 2015, we released These Paths We Tread in 2017, we released this in 2019. There is 2 years, a 2-year process. We had talked about the next thing possibly being an EP, and so hopefully been able to bring it out sooner, although the only thing that's kind of going slightly against that at the moment is I'm writing loads of stuff.
Yeah.
So it might end up being an album. We'll see. We don't know. If it's an EP, there's always a chance it might be able to come out sooner, but you're not talking massively sooner. It's still going to be at least a year. You might save 6 months. It might be a year and a half or whatever. But yeah. Was there any more questions?
That's it. We're all done.
We're done.
Oh well. Thank you for watching. And go buy the album.
Yeah.